Okay. Quick warning before we get started that I do tend to jump around topics a lot in my videos, as that is just how my brain works. I also do apologize about the audio. I don't have a proper microphone, just an iPhone and a dream. The Sniffer was the Minecraft mob that won the mob vote in 2022, and they were suggested by this user for me to redesign. Thank you for their idea, by the way, Mustard. We know that sniffers come from eggs. Because they are covered in fur, we can assume they are mammals, meaning that the family they're most likely a part of would be the monotremes. This family includes echidnas and the duck-billed platypus. First of the monotremes was Murray glossus, or the western long-beaked echidna. They're about 3.5 feet long and 50 pounds. Extrapolating off of that, we are going to need to significantly reduce the sniffer size, also just to make it more in line with the rest of its family. So they will now be about the same size as a sheep. Sniffers dig with their snouts in their digging animations in-game, instead of using their hands like one may expect. I will give them a similar body constitution to an aardvark, as it fits my needs and fixes my ear issue, plus they also use their snouts on occasion to dig and have a brilliant sense of smell. What I mean by ear issue is just down to nitpicking, really. I don't like the ears that the in-game sniffer has, simply just because I don't like them very much. I do, however, like the idea of giving them a more obvious tail, so I will be doing that as well, along with adding some little brow horns. You may think this has little relevance or basis, but Ceratogalus has them, and it aids in the whole digging with its snout thing that the sniffer has going on. Moving on from the head, let's talk about its limbs. It has 6 limbs, as you know, and some of you may think that's what the main change is going to be for this design, but I have found a loophole of sorts. There is a condition called polymorphia, a birth defect in which the infected individual has more than the usual number of limbs. You can use this as a mutation of sorts that one of their ancestors could have possibly had that evolved to be a species trait instead. And I will have them be a bit more reduced, obviously, than the main digging arms and be used more as, like, carrying limbs, like an ant's jaws. Since we're talking about the digging forelimbs, obviously I'm going to be giving it some big aardvark-like claws on the front so it can really get into the ground instead of using its nose. Now that I'm about done talking about its shapes and how I'll have it work, let's talk about its fur. Considering the sniffer is green and red and long furred, there's going to have to be some major changes made in order for it to be in line with reality here. Mammals in general are very quote-unquote boring colored. That is to say, most of them are earth colored in most cases, with patterns in black, white, and gray. Well, yes, it does make sense from an evolutionary standpoint. It does not make my job very easy when keeping this as a recognizable redesign. Though I have essentially tore this thing down to its bare bones and rebuilt it from there, so Since the sniffer doesn't spawn in an actual biome in Minecraft, I just extrapolated that since it is, an extinct creature, the biome it might have inhabited when it was, alive and roaming the world probably would have been a desert or, like, savanna type biome. Like the modern animals that dig and such, like aardvarks as mentioned previously, or anteaters, tenrecs, echidnas, that type of thing. And to absolutely no one's surprise, these animals are gray and brown and black and such. So that was like my main point of reference for recoloring it. And yes, I do get that I could just, give them the bright fun colors anyway, but this isn't about, preserving the magic of the design or whatever. This is about accuracy. But one fun aspect about mammals is that we tend to lack in color. We do make up for a whole bunch in patterns. So I can have a whole bunch of fun patterning this dude. I can give him basically any pattern I want. Solids, stripes, spots, bands, a combination of them. Hell, I could make him checkerboard if I want to. But these are a few I settled on. I think they're pretty. I do, quick disclaimer here, I do enjoy natural colors. Like, I'm not hating on mammals or whatever for being quote-unquote boring. I do enjoy them. Like, browns are some of my favorite colors ever. When you're a dude who really likes, reptiles and fish, the scaly guys, birds and such, it's kind of jarring to come out and have to design something that's just brown or black or white, But to just state it again, I do like these designs. I do like mammals. Don't kill me in the comments section. Moving on to, the in-game aspect of this, because that is also important. Because, as I've said before, the second set of forelimbs will be used for carrying objects. Because of that, and the fact that they are going to be mountable in my version, they will have a storage mechanic like donkeys do, and they will have about half the amount of a normal chest slots to hold any material. In addition to this, I think a sort of symbiotic relationship with the bees could be interesting. An example, if a sniffer picks up a flower, any of the bees in the area will flock to it and float around passively like they do player characters. Are hurt near the sniffer, or a nest is broken from the bees, it will go into an aggressive state towards the player and attack them, much like an iron golem does when villagers are hurt. And of course, they actually dig with their forelimbs instead of their noses. Sorry, I'm trying really hard to be, impassive about this. Not impassive, trying to be non-partial, but I just really hate the sniffer design. I'm so sorry to anyone that actually, really enjoys this mob, but the design makes objectively no sense in my opinion, and trying to make sense of it was a bit rough. But that's basically it. I do encourage you all to talk about this in the comment section, talk about what you would have done differently had you been, assigned this task. Your own ideas about, what you would have done. Maybe you didn't want it to be a monitoring. Maybe, you wanted to, for example, throwing this out there, maybe you wanted your sniffer to be redesigned to be more closely related to, an ancestor of the kangaroo, for example. Maybe your sniffer's gonna be, a big bird, right? You could choose to focus on one of the aspects I forgot, like how the sniffer has hooves. Maybe you want to focus on the fact that it has bright fur and lopped ears. That implies some sort of domestication. How far would that go? You could get really creative with many different aspects of this. The ones that I chose to focus on were, making it related to echidnas and such, and the fact that I don't like how it digs. Go nuts, get crazy with your ideas, just, keep it civil in the comment section, please. Thank you all so very much for watching. Subscribe if you'd like. Check out my other social medias if you'd like. Bye!